Hello, today I am talking about and reviewing the book Show Us Who You Are by Elle McNicoll. This is a middle grade science fiction novel I read recently, and I really enjoyed it. I look forward to telling you about it. So this is the second book I have read by this author. The first I read was A Kind of Spark. I read that last year and really enjoyed it. It was in my top 10 books I read that year. It felt really nice to be back with her, as I've been wanting to read more from her. This book follows a 12-year-old English girl named Cora who lives with her dad and older brother who is in his 20s. Her mother is deceased. She passed away about a year ago at the time of the book. Cora is autistic, though her family doesn't talk about it very much, and she doesn't get along very well with other people at school. She did have one best friend, but she moved to Australia, so she's pretty lonely without her. Cora's older brother works for a company called Pomegranate Institute. They are not yet open to the public, but they are working on reaching that point. And what they do is they make holograms that they call grams of people after studying them in real life, after getting their permission. These can be regular people, like somebody's loved one, so that they can have a gram of them for after they've passed away, or there are also some famous people who have agreed to be a part of the program. They use artificial intelligence to make these grams, make them as lifelike as possible, and when they open to the public, people will be able to pay to talk to these grams and maybe talk to a gram of a celebrity they like or visit a loved one who has passed away. At a party, Cora meets the owner of the company's son, Adrian, who is her age. Although they live in the same area, he is homeschooled, so Cora's never met him before. Adrian is super enthusiastic, friendly, and likable. He and Cora connect well and understand each other in ways that they don't really feel with other people their age, and they develop a friendship. Although Adrian comes from a rich family, like they've got a fancy house and a maid and chauffeur and all that, he isn't spoiled at all. Like, he is very kind. Cora is intrigued and fascinated by the concept of pomegranate, but her dad and brother have different opinions about it, and so does Adrian. They don't seem as excited about it as she does. Cora meets some people who work at the institute, and they want to study her and make a gram of her, because she has a different brain, because she is autistic, to study how neurodivergent people work so that they can make more accurate grams of them. She thinks this idea is interesting, and she doesn't see why not. However, her family is reluctant about it, and so is Adrian. So that is basically the plot of this book. Before reading it, I already thought it sounded pretty interesting. I thought the characters were really interesting. I really enjoyed reading them. Like I mentioned, Adrian was really likable. I especially liked his personality. I also really enjoyed the characters' interactions with each other, especially Cora and Adrian's friendship. I really cared about the characters, and I thought they had depth to them. Adrian is very confident in who he is, and that's another likable trait about him. And together, he and Cora learn about each other's neurodivergence. There is also ADHD representation in this book. Another detail about Cora is that she wants to be an investigative journalist, a reporter. I think the author does a very good job at using Cora to show many different ways that autism affects the main character. I say the main character because it can be different for everyone who has it, but I think these ways fit in with the story because she could just take a bunch of time to start talking about it and giving information, which some people might not find as interesting. I mean, I would, but at the same time, you want to get the story going. So I think that it goes well with the story. I think this author is so good at describing certain feelings and experiences, especially through that lens. Along with the neurodivergence representation, which was part of why I enjoyed this so much, because I can really relate to it and I think it's really important to have. There are also themes in this of grief and ableism and eugenics and how some people view neurodivergent people. And I think all these topics were handled and done really well. I thought the book was realistic and that there was more going on in Cora's life than just the stuff at Pomegranate. So, like I said, she gets to meet people who work there, she gets to visit the place and explore it. As I said, I loved the friendship between Cora and Adrian. I enjoyed their conversations. I felt that they connected with and understood each other so well. I also liked the relationship between Cora and her dad, and with some of the characters in this book, it was the kind of book where you don't fully know who to trust, and that's interesting. The themes of AI were really relevant and I think done very well. This book was published in 2021 for reference, and it can be about how people can have different intentions with that. I don't always love science fiction or find it interesting, but this was an example of the kind I like. I think partially because it's mostly pretty realistic and contemporary, and there's relatability with like the neurodivergence representation compared to if I'm at some other world, some other planet where I can't relate to the characters. I think the characters are a big thing. They were relatable and realistic, so I think that was part of it. And also, I just felt that it was about something important. Not that those other kinds of science fiction stories aren't. They usually do have some kind of lesson or message or parallel to the real world. But I think sometimes, maybe for me, it's not that they're bad stories, but I think maybe my issue with them is they can feel so far removed from the world we're used to, so I may not be as good at understanding the parallels or noticing them, and maybe I just like things that are a bit more on Earth, or at least similar to us in some ways, than something that is just so far out there, or especially if it doesn't have any sort of lesson and it's just like a cool story that takes place in somewhere else. That might be harder for me to connect with. But I was certainly invested in this story. I wanted to keep reading. I don't want to say how this book ends, as this is a spoiler-free review, but I will say I really loved the messages and ideas that this book talks about, especially towards the end. I really agreed with them and thought they were very important about being different or having a disability or anything like that, and how to feel about it, how other people should feel about it or handle it or not. I enjoyed going on this journey with Cora. I think this book had good character development and I had sympathy for her. Overall, I thought this book was very good. I really enjoyed it. I would say I loved it. It's definitely a 5-star read for me. It speaks very important ideas that I believe in story form. So aside from just the messages, I think that it was just an interesting, good story. I think it contains a very important and sadly relevant message. If I had read this last year, I think it would have meant even more to me, but it still means a lot to me now. I've been wanting to read this for months. I had a feeling I would love it, and I was right, it did not disappoint. The author herself is autistic, and I really enjoy reading that representation from people who actually experience that, so I think she's a great autistic author if you're looking for what is called own voices stories. I think she's really good at making you feel something, whether that's empathy or anger or whatever it may be, like in this book. The other best books I've read this year so far have been novels in verse, so it was really nice to read a whole novel. Ultimately, I do prefer those. If you've read this book or anything by the author or anything similar, like maybe to do with these themes or with neurodivergent protagonists, I would love to hear about it. I don't know if anything else I read by this author will be as good, but I do look forward to reading and finding out. I don't want to read everything she's written, but she does have some other books I'm definitely interested in reading. So yeah, Show Us Who You Are by Elle McNicoll. Very good book. I definitely recommend it. It did remind me a bit of the Poet Anderson series by Tom DeLonge and Suzanne Young. I mean, ultimately 2 very different stories, but there were some things that reminded me of it. I really enjoyed telling you about this book. Thank you for watching this review.